Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to go over the Yongnuo 622n-tx wireless flash controller and the Yongnuo 622n version 2 wireless flash triggers transceivers. There's not a huge difference between the version 2 and the version 1 622n. Mainly the shape of the edges and the way that it attaches to a little stand or onto a camera or whatever, as well as the switches are a little harder to push so that you don't accidentally change groups or channels and things like that while you're moving things around. Another big difference, I guess, is that this has the 603RX capability, meaning if you've got the RF603 triggers or the 560TX controller, you can fire these. It'll receive the fire signal from that. So anyway, we'll talk about this a little bit. These operate on AA batteries. They say they're designed to operate on the 1.2 volt rechargeable batteries as well as regular 1.5 volt alkaline batteries. Using the triggers, I typically go with the 1.5 standard alkaline batteries instead of the rechargeables. I've noticed better results that way. So these things are pretty easy to work with. If you want to change the channel on it, you've got 7 available channels. The channel button is right here on the side. You can go, right now we're on channel 1, hit it again, channel 2, channel 3, channel 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now back to 1. We have 3 groups. We have group A, B, and C, so that you can have 3 different power outputs with your speed lights. We got group A, press it again, group B, press it again, group C, press it again, back to group A. Little button there on the side. One neat thing about these, when it comes time, and if they get around to it, there will be a firmware upgrade available. There is a micro USB port right here on the side so that you can upgrade the firmware on these once they've determined that needs to be done. Right now, all there is the firmware that came on them. There's really no changes to anything. So, like I said, AA batteries, switch on, switch off, real easy to use. These can be used to fire studio strobes. Don't use them on high voltage strobes like your older Speedotron, Brownline, or Novatron, whatever it is. I burned a couple out trying to fire those. But you'll plug a PC plug into this little port and then stick the PC cord into your strobe and it'll fire your strobe. Some people say that with Alien Bees they're able to get up to 1/8,000th of a second. I haven't done that with Alien Bees because I use the Yongnuo Studio strobes, which automatically go up to 1/8,000th of a second, so not really anything that I'm concerned about. These are made pretty good. They're nice and heavy, solid plastic. They're a little big. Some people think they're a little too big, but they do everything that you need. I mean, they'll let you operate and fire your speedlights up to 1/8,000th of a second if your camera is capable and your speedlight is capable. You can get them at my website, which is yongnuousa.net. As you see right here, the 622n typically comes with 2 of the triggers in a box. The TX comes with the one controller there. It mounts on your camera right here. We're going to go over its buttons and everything in just a moment, and then I'll show you how to use them. I do offer a kit on my website, a starter kit is what I call it, and it's got the controller and 1 trigger so that if you're just using 1 speedlight, you don't have to buy 2 of the triggers and just have 1 sitting around. So right now we're going to go over the buttons and functions of the controller. As you see here, we've got the control. I've got it mounted on top of a Nikon D7000. It's got the little on-off switch right here. These guys work on AA batteries also. Top left button is our group button, and what that does is it allows us to go from group A to group B to group C and back. Our mode button allows us to change the mode of each channel. So right now we're on group A. The default is TTL, and if we press the little button here, that'll take us over to manual, and then we can adjust our manual settings. Press it again, it takes us to Super Sync. Super Sync is something that we're not going to go over today. It can come in handy, especially when you're doing studio strobes and some of the older speedlights and things like that. Press the mode button one more time, and all the writing on that line goes away, and what that does is it turns that channel off. So, say you're at a wedding, you have 3 different groups of lights set up, and one particular shot you don't want a certain bank of lights to shoot. You can turn that group off real easily just by doing that, not having to go over and turn each speed light off individually. When you're ready to start using them again, you press the mode button again and turn that back on to either TTL or manual, and you're good to go again. So press the group button to get to group B, group C, back to group A. A really neat thing about these is they'll allow you to have your 3 groups, and you can shoot a group in TTL, you can shoot a group in manual, you can shoot another group TTL, however you want to set them up. You can press that mode and you can run one TTL, one manual, the other TTL. It's pretty great. Over here on the right we have our zoom and channel button, and what that does is it allows us to manually change the zoom on our speed lights from the controller. To do that, you'll press the little button one time, group A will flash, press it again, it moves to group B, press it again, moves to group C. Now when you want to change those, you just hit the arrow button here on your keypad, and it'll go all the way through the cycling there to all the different possibilities of zoom on your speed light. If you want to change the channel, you just press and hold that button, and then your channel button will flash, and then you can hit the arrow button again. And as with the trigger, there are 7 channels. You can scroll through all 7 of them. So occasionally you'll be doing something and you'll change some settings and you won't realize what you've done, and you'll need to go back and you want to reset everything to how it came out of the box. To do that, you press the mode and the AF button right here in the middle. Press and hold those. It clears all the settings in the controller, and it takes us back to the very beginning. It even took us from channel 7 back to channel 1, reset all of our zoom, reset everything to TTL, which is the default. There is a test button over here, so that once you have your speed light mounted onto your trigger and you want to make sure that they're communicating with each other, you can press test and you can fire off a little test shot. Now, unlike with some of the other higher dollar triggers, the test shot has a fixed power that it's going to fire at. You're not going to be able to use this to work with a light meter and things like that. It's just to let you know that it's working with each other. So I've got my 568EX speed light. I've got it mounted on my 622 there. It's ready to go, so we're going to test and make sure that they're communicating with each other. And there we go, we got a little flash. Just in case it didn't show up in the camera there, we're going to do it again. There we go. So we know they're communicating. Now, a lot of people have seen my Canon video, and they see that when you make changes on the controller, that change shows up on the speed light. Unfortunately, the Nikon system works a little bit differently. Nikon tends to make things a little more difficult than they need to be on occasion, and their speed light system happens to be one of those things. So anytime you've got a Nikon speed light, it doesn't matter if it's an off-brand or if it is a Nikon brand, when you're using them on these triggers, the communication protocol means they have to be set to TTL. Now you're sitting there going, uh-oh, I thought I could make manual adjustments. You can. The way that this will work is on the TX controller, you'll set your group A to manual. Let's make sure this is on group A. There we are. Now we're at 1/16 power. We're going to crank that down to 1/28. 1/128. Alright, it shows manual. We want our speed light on TTL because the TX controller is going to send information, a manual reading, to fire the speed light at 1/128 power. It's going to send it to the trigger here. The trigger is then going to take that communication and it's going to turn it into a TTL communication and tell the speed light to fire at that power. It's not going to change anything at all on this back panel as far as the power output goes. If you'll notice, we do have our channel A, or excuse me, group A at 28 millimeters, and then we've got our speed light at 50 millimeters. To change that, we'll just half press the shutter release and it changes to whatever zoom we have set on the controller there. So now we're going to take a picture. There we go. So that fired at a real low power. Then we can turn that power up, crank that sucker all the way back up to full power, and let's see if we can get a brighter flash out of it this time. I don't know if you can tell in the video there or not, but there was a huge difference in the power output, and on the back of the speed light it still says TTL, when in fact it fired at the power that the manual control said to fire at. Occasionally, if you put the speed light on top of the trigger while one or the other is turned on, it's going to cause a short and it'll occasionally mess up something. Usually what it affects the most is the zoom. It'll make the ability to zoom the speed light in and out not work for some reason. So you'll need to reset your trigger. I'll show you how to do that right now. We'll just take this speed light off of here. So with your trigger turned on, to reset the trigger, you're going to press the channel button and the group button at the same time, and you'll notice this little LED at the bottom. It's going to flash green and red, then it's going to cycle through ABC, channel 1, 2, 3, and then your little LED back here will go solid again. That resets the trigger. Anytime you're having difficulty with communication and things like that, that is the first thing that you want to do when you're troubleshooting. Second thing you want to do, check your batteries. These things are really finicky when it comes to low power batteries, and fresh batteries will make a huge difference in your performance. So some of you are saying, okay, you said something about high-speed sync. Yes, I did. Make sure that you have a camera, or, well, your camera, your triggers, and your speed light have to be high-speed sync capable. Now with Nikon, that terminology is called auto FP. You know, it's what it does is it allows you to fire your speed lights up to 1/8,000th of a second. That change is made inside the camera. With Canon, you just press a button on top of the controller, it changes everything to high-speed sync, and you're good to go. With Nikon, it doesn't work that way. So you go into your camera menu, go down to your flash controls, you can go to your flash sync speed, and you're going to select one of your sync speeds that have the auto FP, because auto FP means high speed sync in Nikon terms. These things are great, they're easy to use. The biggest issues people have, you know, I get messages all the time, hey Tim, I've got everything, the test button works, and it's not communicating with my speed light. Check your batteries, number one. Reset your triggers, number two. Number three, always make sure that this controller is all the way into the hot shoe. A lot of times people will get it, they'll slide it on. Let me loosen it up here. They'll slide it on, and they'll think it's all the way in when it's not, and then they just give it a little bit of a push and it goes all the way into the hot shoe, and then you're good to go, and you'll be able to shoot at 1/8,000th of a second like I am right there. And there you go, no black line. We got 1/8,000th of a second. We're good to go. So that's just a brief coverage on the 622n-tx and the 622n triggers and how to use them and link them up and what to do with them. If you have any questions, just leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And if there's something I did not cover in this video that you'd like to see me cover in the future, leave that down below, and hopefully I'll be able to make a new video for you sometime soon.